call this meeting to order. Please rise for a moment of silence and salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to be a little bit out of order here to start with. We're going to do the budget presentation first, so the finance guys can be on their way. So the floor is yours.
Right. Well, good evening. Thank you very much. It's nice to see most of you again. My name is Ryan Ottenstein. I'm with FSL Public Finance. We're engaged as the district's financial advisors on debt issuance and matters of monitoring your debt portfolio. Wanted to talk with you tonight. I know you had a chance to review some information at the Finance Committee meeting, but options for funding the capital project that you're currently looking at, which is the HVAC project at the admin building, and wanted to just go through kind of what different scenarios look like for you so that you're aware of what are the options, what are the most cost-effective mechanisms for you to finance this project, and what are the impacts to you as a district from a budgetary, also potential tax impacts, but then also considering what some of the impacts are on your cash balance and having those reserves available for you. So what we have for you and what we have in front of you tonight, which looks a little bit like this, is a one-page summary of 4 different options. The first option is that you would finance 100% of this up front. The total cost of this project is estimated at $7.83 million. The second option is borrowing 75% of the cost and then using cash on hand to fund that other. The third option is borrowing 60% of the project cost, and then the fourth option is borrowing 50% of the project cost, and then funding this delta with cash on hand. So you can see in all of those options, the bond proceeds available under option 1 at the top would be that you would receive a deposit of $7.8 million. When we're looking at this project is deemed a guaranteed energy savings project, so we are required to finance this project in 20 years or less. So for all of these scenarios, this is a 20-year debt service, and we are structuring it as level debt service, so that from an annual basis, your debt service would be level every single year, other than the first calendar year and the second calendar year, where in the first calendar year as you're building the project, you don't have any principal paid, and then the second calendar year, you catch up, and then from there on out, you have level debt service. So if we were to borrow a full $7.8 million, which would fund the entire project, you'd be looking at an increase in your debt service from an annual perspective in year 1 of about $343,000. The second year, that would increase a little bit more to about $265,000 for a maximum annual level debt service of approximately $615,000 given current market rates. Now, those current market rates, when you would price this in, would be locked forever. There would be no market rate fluctuation. You don't have to worry about those rates changing, and it would be locked for you moving forward for 20 years. It would be about $614,000. You say, okay, well, what does that mean from the perspective of the impact on your millage rate? From a millage impact, that first year, if you needed to fund that $343,000, not saying that you would be required to fund it from a property tax increase because your budget may have room other places, but if you said, no, we're funding that whole thing, the impact on that would be about an increase in your property tax by about 1.67%. Then the second year would be another additional increase of about 1.26%, for a total increase, if you were required to, not that you are, but if you had to raise that $614,000, over those 2 years, you're looking at about a 2.95% increase in real estate taxes to fund that entire project. If you look at the option 2 for the 75%, you're looking at year one at about 1.25, and year two, 0.96. The total maximum debt service from an annual perspective there would be about $462,000 a year per year. Option three, you're looking at a first year increase of about 207, with a second year increase of 162 for a total increase of about $371,000. So from a budgetary perspective, option three with a 60% borrowing, you're looking at about $372,000 of annual debt service. And then option four, the 50%, you're looking at about 173 year one, 137 year two, for a total increase in debt service of about $311,000, which equates to, over the 2 years, about 1.5% increase in real estate tax if you needed to fund that whole thing from a real estate levy. Now, when you're considering your options here, there's a lot for you to consider. Obviously, the budgetary consideration of what does this look like from the budgetary perspective, but then also you want to take a look at, well, what does that mean to our fund balance perspective if we were to pull that out? So you have to remember, right now you're in a lot of, not just you, but school districts throughout the Commonwealth, there's a lot of uncertainty of what's going on, especially with changes at the federal level. There's a lot of just unknowns. We're looking forward to what different funding mechanisms are going to be like. So as you pull down that fund balance, if you were to fund this entire thing, you'd be dropping your available reserves. I believe right now you're probably right around 16, 17 million. If you were to pull all of that out, fund $8 million of project, you're cutting that in half overnight. One of the things that you also want to consider is, what is your cost of capital? Right now, what we're looking at, based on current rates or rates earlier in the month, you're right around about 4.2%. Low fours or an interest rate. Give you some perspective. Your money that's sitting in the bank is earning more than that. So what you're paying on this anticipated debt service really is lower than what you're earning. From a cash flow perspective and the ability to arbitrage what you have, there's a lot of good reasons to take a look and say, hey, you may want to consider funding a portion or a large portion of this with a borrowing. And these would be happy to address any questions that you might have. If you have any for me, to go through them. And if not, then we can talk about what the next steps look like if you decide to move forward with financing the portion of the project.
Who are you, Brian? What would you do?
If it were me, and obviously it's not, this is your decision completely, I always err on the side of keeping as much cash on reserve as I possibly can. In our world, cash is always king. The more money you have in reserves, the cheaper your money becomes. If I was sitting around this table, I'd be very worried about what the future looks like, and spending down a significant portion of that would be concerning, just because I don't have the reserves available moving forward to fund increases that are unknown. For example, if the market and your investments continue, not your investments, but PCER's investments at the state level continue to take a beating in the market, that liability of future pension will go up. If that liability goes up, your required contribution to that PCER fund will go up. If that goes up and you've spent down your reserves on a capital project and you don't have those reserves available, it's going to require you to fund those contributions with tax increases, and they could be large. If you keep those in reserves and that liability goes up and your contributions, you're allowed to use those reserves for those pieces of contributions. You can kind of budget that if you have them available. If you spend your reserves and you don't have them available, it makes it more difficult, gives you a little bit less flexibility. Also considering the difference in the cost of capital versus what you're earning, there's not a huge difference there. It's actually a little bit of a surplus right now, or positive for you. So that also makes it a little bit better. I tend to say, hey, and I don't get paid differently depending on how much you farm. I think it makes more sense to borrow for capital projects not just because of that, but also the idea of a fairness of burden, in that when you're using cash on hand, what is happening is that past taxpayers who have helped build up that are funding that project. Whereas when you're borrowing and you're spreading it over time, the people who are going to use that asset are the ones that end up paying for it. So this is a long-term capital project. People at Berwick are going to be using this for 20 plus years. Spread that out. The people who are funding that pay for it. So that's another argument. But ultimately, the decision is up to you. We're happy to do whatever you would like, and whatever you think is best for the city.
So the decision would have to be made next month?
Yeah, so the process, and with me tonight is Brian Kozlansky from Stevens and Lake. Brian Kozlansky has served as bond counsel for the district for over 25 years.
Over 30.
A long,
Shows
long
my
time. And so the process would be, we would come back to the school board with a resolution, with a not to exceed amount, a parameters resolution that would then authorize the borrowing. So I'll let Brian talk a little bit about that actual
And
resolution.
even if you wanted to take, since we're going to do a parameters resolution at the board level to send down to the state to get the approval process going, you don't necessarily need to make the decision, between now and next month's meeting on whether you're doing 100%. We could do the maximum at 100. You can always tell us, a month after that, anytime before the bonds get priced, that no, we only want to do half. All I do at that point is tell the state, this is the final borrowing amount, and they take the rest off your book. So it's not problematic if you don't have an answer yet, or you're not comfortable saying, 80%, 100%. We can just pass that at 100%. Nothing happens other than we file it with the state. That decision has to be made before bonds are priced and marketed, but it doesn't have to be by May 12th. But the process for May 12th would be, if you're ready to do the resolution, there's a pre-enactment ad that goes in the paper a couple days before the meeting. You'd have a full borrowing resolution for approval. If it's approved, we put a second ad in the paper and file the paper with the state. We just wait for their approval. They have 20 days to review it. So there's a time process to do all this. So that's why you have some time to still think about this. You did the reimbursement resolution already, so that even if you have to start these projects and use some of your funds, you can reimburse yourself when we finish the financing. So it's a temporary out of your general fund, it goes right back. So I'm happy to answer the questions. The resolution itself is very similar to what you've done in the past. I think 21 was the last issue. It's the resolution that's required by the Debt Act in Pennsylvania. It covers everything that you need to approve to get from that resolution date to closing any bonds. It's very detailed, but it is very similar to what you did in the past, or what you've done in the past. But I'm happy to answer any questions on that process as well.
I've reviewed this as well, the resolution, Jared sent it to me, as Brian indicated, it's, I don't say standard, but it is pretty much the same as what it was several years ago. One prior to that, it's a formality that needs to go through.
So really that's, all we need to know to get ready for that May 12th meeting is really the direction of, do we do it at the full amount and bring it back to you, give you some more time to think about it? Or if you want to answer that question before, we can do it at whatever amount you're comfortable with. The other thing I just want to raise, because you'll see it in the paper, even if you say you wanted to borrow, this $8 million, say, that resolution, because it's a parameters and the state approves your debt service on an annual basis, we never want to have one of those annual years. We don't want to constrain you in the pricing bonds to not have the flexibility to move bonds around. So we probably will have a $10 or $11 million figure on that resolution. So there's a lot of room built into that amortization. Obviously, you're only going to borrow what you want to borrow, but it means that you won't have to redo the ads, you won't have to redo the resolution. We don't want to be that close that you have to start the process all over again because it made sense to move some bonds around to get you the best interest rate. But ultimately, even if that's at 11 million, you're only going to borrow what you want to borrow. So that's, once again, once we do the deal, we send a letter to the state saying we issue 5 or 7 and we take the rest off the record. So it's much more expensive to do it twice than you just send a letter and take it off.
And just for an education perspective, you have plenty of capacity legally. the district only has about $30 million of bonds outstanding, principal outstanding, and your capacity is $115 million. So from a legal perspective, $7, $8 million is something that is a concern or an issue.
How far down this chart do we have to go for how much we borrow to get down to where the real estate tax increase is zero?
That depends on what happens with the other pieces of your budget. I can't tell you. Because anytime if you were to say, this is a totally new expense, and your budget is completely balanced at 0, 0, and revenues equal, anytime you add a new expense, you have to figure out a way to pay for that. So, but obviously the other side is you could use the cash that you have on hand to fund the debt service in those years as well.
Because the interest earning account is only good as long as we guarantee the funds are in the account to earn the interest, right?
That's true. And from the same point, though, if you were both taking those down for any operating expenses, the same thing would be said. So yes, from that standpoint. And there's also, these would be set up with 5-year call. So in 5 years, if you were to say, hey, you know, there's more revenues come in from X, Y, and Z, we want to look at pre-funding and refunding some of these bonds, we've had that option in 5 years to buy them down.
Which the district has done in the past too. There's been some bonds outstanding, we had available cash, and we just paid down and started bailing them. And that's a very easy process as well.
I don't know.
You're welcome. So we'll just look for some direction, you know, superintendent, let us know, and we can get everything ready for May 12th. If you want to do it on.
We appreciate all the information, all the research that you've done on behalf of the district.
Absolutely.
Happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think we have to go to the next budget meeting. We'll have to in that conversation.
While we're at the budget line, do you have anything else? Nothing else. With that, we'll move back up to academic affairs. Let's not give this.
So we did not have an academic affairs committee meeting this month. We do have a number of things to go over. First, Dr. McCluskey is going to talk a little bit about where we are in regards to our AI committee and our position statement.
Thanks. So we've gotten together with teachers and students a few times to discuss first a position statement, which would be what is the Berwick Area School District's position on how we use artificial intelligence or generative tools, both for students and teachers. One of the main guiding principles is that we use this technology to augment our human abilities, our human intelligence, not to replace it. We've modeled a draft of position statement off of a few other districts in the state that have published position statements in the National Education Association. Just sent it out for comment from faculty and from our middle and high school students. And we'll plan to present it to academic affairs soon. After we would have a position on the technology, then we would craft a policy. Crafting a policy is, we have to point to the other policies it relates to, such as appropriate usage, academic honesty. We look at models of policies for AI. They're often one too many other policies that are existing. So that'll be a little bit more detailed work after we have the position statement. So are there any questions or anything to answer initial thoughts? Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
The next thing that I wanted to share, and I apologize, I was coming from a meeting, so I did not get to hand these out. These are not for you to keep because they just came in the mail today for our teachers. We are really excited to share that our middle school is one of 4 schools that have been selected in the state of Pennsylvania to be part of the Empowerment Collaborative. The Empowerment Collaborative is a transformative model designed to empower students and schools through a structured 4-phase process of exploration, installation, implementation, and sustained empowerment. In layman's terms, this is bringing project-based learning and real-life learning into our classrooms. What we've decided to do is focus on our 7th grade team. Some of the work will be starting this year. The books that you have in front of you is a workbook that's for the exploration stage of this. This is a 5-year grant that is going to continue to run and has been fully funded for the 5 years. And we are going to be able to take part in it as long as we'd like to during that 5-year process. This first year, we do not need to sign an MOU or anything like that as we're going through the exploration process. This really is an opportunity at the end of this year and into next school year for our teachers and our students to make sure that this is a really good process that works for them and for them to try out some funded projects. It includes simulated workplace environments. Those are classrooms where students will be leading the workplace to develop skills and dispositions, authentic learning and assessment, and career mindsets. I did provide you a handout, which I think is linked on the website as well with some more details about this. We are very excited. This is something that is a regional project. So when I share that we are one of 4 schools, we really are one of 4 middle schools in the state. So this is something that I think your incoming 7th graders will be able to take part in, and I'm very appreciative of both the 7th grade administration and the 7th grade teachers for leaning into this. So this is our kind of our big thing on the highlight for our middle school. I also wanted to share that we are moving forward with the Innovation and Scholastic Legacy Grant. Earlier this school year, I shared with you that we worked with First Keystone to set up an ongoing grant opportunity for our teachers, and this has fully come to fruition. So First Keystone is sponsoring yearly mini grants in amounts varying from $400 to $800. Teachers may apply on their own or on a collaborative project. We will be sharing the applications and the guidelines with teachers this week. And for our teachers, the applications will be due on June 30th. Can I give one thing that's not on the agenda? It's a very quick one. Our middle school is going to be having a Yes Day, which if any of you have worked with Junior Achievement in the past, this is an opportunity for community members to come into our schools to be able to provide some lessons on different career readiness pieces to our middle school students. So we will be looking for individuals from industries who would be willing to come in and help to facilitate those sessions. So please be on the lookout for your email if you're interested to come in and participate in that.
Well, you have any for us?
Yeah, real quick, I had anticipated having a number for you guys to do the install of the freezers and coolers that we're doing this summer. They will be delivered within a few weeks from now, but it took a while to get to this point to where I could hand a contractor something for them to give us a price on to do the install. It's something that there's not a lot of people that do because of the freezers and coolers that we have. The building is almost built around them, so it's almost as much new construction as it is, restoration work. So the numbers that I had got, they were rushed, I think, and so I will have a number for the May meeting. In order to get them installed this summer, I will have to have something approved at the May meeting. So I'm talking to some other contractors to even see if anybody's even interested. I haven't found many people that do it or want to do it that are within our geographical location. I can find people out of state, but then I would have to pay for them to travel here to stay here, so the number would be much larger. So right now, what the hang up is it's a large number to do the install, but the electrical for all this is what seems to be costing the most. So our district electrician, Dan Trappening, is fantastic, is helping me navigate that. So we're not trying to maybe get something that we really don't need, only stuff that that the district could use. So we had said that the new generator that's going to come here at East Berwick, that will be hooked up to the new freezer and cooler. We want to do the same thing at the high school and the middle school. So it means maybe putting in a new circuit and some other things electrically. So we're trying to get the best price, and that money does come out of the cafeteria fund. So it's not necessarily taxpayers' money that will pay for that, but still we're trying to make sure it's as fair as possible, even though it is coming out of that. So I will have a number for that May meeting that hopefully we can get approved so we can move forward with doing this summer. So that would mean the roof at the middle school would be being done this summer. The freezers and the coolers at the high school, middle school, and here at East Berwick, plus the HVAC project here at East Berwick would all be going on this summer.
Great, thank you. Mrs. Post, for us?
Central Susquehanna is league for the regional tournament at the IU, showcasing the talents of our local students. It was all about the esports, and the students competed head to head in a video game called Rocket League, and the winners of the tournament will move on to compete at the state level. Our students were first place. They were Nate Wood, Keaton Alberson, and Derek Moss. Congratulations to them and their advisors.
Thank you. We didn't have a policy committee meeting since the last meeting. We are looking at the PSBA's policy review service. That hasn't been done since 2015, and that is on tonight's agenda for approval. And also on tonight's agenda, we have first reading of policy 101, which updates the district's mission statement and vision statement. Mr. Hess, anything to vote on?
Yeah, a little bit, but not too much, because unfortunately, the last couple of decades have fallen the same way on our superintendent interviews, so no one from our district is able to go out for obvious reasons. But I know the last meeting that we missed, they did approve the budget, so probably we're gonna have to add that to the agenda for the May meeting. And also, either a budget committee meeting or prior to that May meeting, if anyone wants any representatives from Public Tech to come in and explain it, reach out to me, let me know, I can make arrangements. I don't hear from anyone, I'm to go.
What did you say about?
All right, I'll talk to them. Because actually, we're gonna be down there tomorrow night, so I'll have more updates this month. So I'll bring your request, see if I can get them here for either May or budget. If it works for them,
Thank you. That brings us to the end of the committee meeting. We'll move into the regular meeting. First item will be to approve the meeting minutes from our March 10th meeting. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Budgetary transfers. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. Presentation of monthly bills. This will be a roll call vote. Motion to approve? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mrs. Capurlo? Yes. Mr. Lanning?
Yes.
Mrs. Moyer? Yes. Mrs. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
And Mr. Yost?
Yes.
Thank you. Let's have a few updates. One would be regarding the search for the superintendent. And just would like to report that it's a very thorough process. Here, Board of Education is putting a lot of time and effort into interviewing the respective candidates. There were 22 initially. They have narrowed it down to a handful. And there have been 2 rounds of interviews thus far. The district has employed the services of Tom Templeton. He's been doing an excellent job as well, coordinating the board, myself, others that are involved in the process, and doing background checks, reference checks, and just ensuring that the individuals that are moving forward are worthy of serving as your next superintendent. On tonight's agenda, there are two retirements. I just wanted to highlight that those. And as I think somebody fairly new to the district, I don't know everybody personally, but you get to learn a lot about them from hearing what others have to say. And the two tonight, Ginny Haskell and Rose Henry. Ginny is a paraprofessional, Rose is a teacher in middle school. They've done an outstanding job for the district. Ginny has been serving students as a para since 1993. And Rose actually just put her resignation, her retirement notice in this morning. She'll be leaving after 10 years of service in the district. So again, just on behalf of the administrative team, I'm sure the Board of Education, we want to thank them for their many years of service to the students as well as to the education program of the Berwick area. Then just other final thing, I just want to piggyback a little bit on what Mrs. Post had to report on. Again, looking at the things going on in Berwick from a different set of eyes, or from someone from the previously from the outside and now in the inside. If I was a parent or just a community member, I would be pleased with many good things happening in the school district. And on the agenda, there are board reports. I encourage you to take a little bit of time and read what the different administrators are reporting out on. But we have just some amazing students that are doing amazing things. Tonight you're going to meet Clayton. He's working on his Eagle Scout. He has a proposed project that he'll be pitching to the Board of Education. But we have not only the high school esports team, but we have the Connects team of elementary students going to CSIU, engaging in STEM projects, and elementary students doing work on infrastructure and urban development. It's just amazing things, amazing opportunities that are being provided to the Berwick area students. Again, as you read the reports, you'll see we've got a planetarium here, and also in our elementary schools. There's plenty of community engagement in the elementary students. We've got the Farmers Bureau here, we've got the Master Gardener here. The community is always invited. We welcome community input. Just for brainstorming, we have Mrs. Kishwa in the audience. She's been doing some research for us on driver's education. Again, it's a community effort, and again, there are many good things happening in the school. Across the board, we have first place winners in whether it's music, and we have students that have been attending TEMA conferences or band and chorus. There's so many, this past weekend we had Quiz Bowl students. They were out in Easton participating. Later in the year they're going to have that similar group on Scholastic Scrimmage on WVIA TV. And that'll be coming up later in the month. And, it's just amazing. So again, as somebody new, I'm just very impressed with many good things happening in your school district. Commend our administrative team, our teachers, the paras, the board, all the people that make up a school community, including some of the people in the audience tonight as well.
All right, thank you. The administrators' reports were attached to the agenda. Does anybody have any questions or comments on those? That brings us to our first round of public comment. This is for agenda items only. Please state your name and township or borough.
Leah Zwolinski, Nescopeck Borough. Tonight you're voting on the new CKLA curriculum, and I just have a few questions regarding that. What supplemental supports would be in place for students and teachers to make this program successful? This curriculum thrives with small group instruction, And will we have the personnel to make that possible? Some criticisms other districts have about this curriculum are a lack of supplemental material, no clear sequence for instruction, it's high-paced, it lacks repetition, and there's no creative type work. I know a pilot program has been done in this district for this, and I'm wondering if you've encountered any of these issues and what we've done to combat them and what supports we'll have in place for this curriculum next year. And then my second question is, who will be analyzing the data for the buildings and at what rate will it be analyzed? How often will we know what's working and what's not working?
So one of the things that came out of our pilot this year is that in K1 and 2, Amplify has two different components. So it has a skills component, it also has a knowledge component. Based on where our students are right now in regards to their early literacy skills, we've decided to use a different program for the skills in K1 and 2. The reason we've done that is because we've seen that our students need that more immediate support and the small group instruction work for them. So we are proposing to use UFly instead for the skills component in K1 and 2. The other pieces that have come up are some challenges that came up in previous editions of Amplify. We are using the third edition, which one is more able to be personalized by the district. Two, we've also planned out some changes to our reading specialist support. I actually just had a meeting with them this week to talk about some additional ways that we'll be leaning into these areas. And we're also going to be meeting this summer to work with a committee of our teachers to lay out some of those personalized pieces so we can make sure that the curriculum program is working best for us. One of the areas of concern that we have had in the district, and this has been ongoing both in middle school and in our elementary school, is in regards to our writing component. And that is one of the pieces that has been shared out as a challenge area for some districts that have implemented the previous versions of Amplify CKLA. So there is an overlay piece that we'll be working with our teachers that is of no additional cost, that will be giving them that additional practice. We are hopeful that we'll be able to move forward with the purchase sooner rather than later so that our teachers can get the materials into their hands and so that they can begin working with them. We do also plan on having some robust professional development both before the school year starts and during the school year because we know the best support for our teachers happens in the classroom with them. So that was one of the hallmarks when we were making decisions about the program and what programs were able to give that kind of robust support to our teachers. When it comes to the data feedback loop, we are already looking at our data on a quarterly basis. I'm happy to meet with anyone and talk about what that looks like with our Acadians, which is our DIBEL scores. Moving into Amplify next year as well as UFly, there are weekly and monthly progress monitoring. We will still plan to be doing an official progress monitoring for the district as a whole on a quarterly basis. And our goal is that we're making sure that any changes that we need to make are happening that quickly. In regards to your child's classroom experiences, their feedback loops are much closer. So their feedback loops will be weekly assessments, especially in the K1 and 2 in regards to the implementation of UFly, and then we'll be looking at their data on a monthly and a quarterly basis in the elementary level. I don't know if I got all of you.
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
Yep. But I'm happy if you'd like to set up a time. We just had a parent advisory council meeting for East Berwick. We were able to pull out the results of our reading scores over the last 4 years and take a close look at them. I am really excited for some of our schools that we're seeing some of those growth areas, especially in the classrooms that have been piloting both UFly and Amplify CKLA. We have one classroom in particular that's been piloting the two of those together, that out of her entire class, there's only 2 students that are not meeting their progress. And the vast majority of their students are not only meeting their expected progress, but exceeding. And that included students that came in below grade level in their reading skills, as well as above grade level in their reading skills. And so that was something we were really excited about. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to the general items. General items 1 through 3 will approve with one motion. Any questions on these items? Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor? we are looking to approve clerical changes in the Act 93 contract. This will be a roll call vote. Do you have any questions on those changes? Motion?
This is just adding the first sentence.
Just changing the list of the, of who it was and then pulling the table out. Motion to approve? Second? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Cucurlo?
Yes.
Mrs. Moyer?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mrs. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Lanning?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
And Mr. Yost?
Yes. G5, approval of MOU with the Berwick Area Education Association. This is for occupational therapists. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Any questions? Roll call, please, Rachel.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Lanning?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mrs. Cucurlo?
Yes.
Mrs. Moyer?
Yes.
Mr. Yost?
Yes. G6 is approval to award the bid to Nutrition Group for our food services.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Lanning?
Yes.
Mrs. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mrs. Cucurlo?
Yes.
Mrs. Moyer?
Yes.
And Mr. Yost?
Yes. G7 is to approve purchase of Ricotta camera systems at the high school. Any questions on that?
So you do have plans on putting it on, but this is just for.
Correct, just to get us going. Mr. Hess made a motion, give a second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Moyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mrs. Cucurlo?
Yes.
Mr. Lanning?
Yes.
And Mr. Yost?
Yes. General item 8 is approval of Winslow Technologies for network services. This is also a roll call vote. Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Moyer?
Yes.
Mr. Lanning?
Yes.
Mrs. Cucurlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
And Mr. Yost?
Yes. Extracurricular, we have one item, 2 out-of-state field trips. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. Academic affairs, we have one item, and that is to approve ELA curriculum. Do you have any questions on that?
I got one question, not necessarily about doing it, but the timing of it. I just got to think about this recently. We're probably gonna hire a new superintendent. And unfortunately, in the past, we've had histories of getting curriculum, use it for years, it goes in a shelf, winds up in a dumpster. I'm wondering maybe if we should possibly table this a month to make sure that the new superintendent's on board with it too, as we finalize the interview process. Because I mean, it's a lot of money, I wanna make sure that we're getting a bang for our buck and everyone's on board, we got a team effort behind it, we're gonna spend this kind of money.
Dr. Fowler, will you be able to give us an insight on the selection process?
Yes, I can. So when we were deciding on programs to pilot, one of the first things that we did was look for programs that were based in the science of reading, which is how we know children and adults learn how to read. Okay? In case anyone doesn't know this, we all learn how to talk just by the sake of being humans. But the skill of reading is something that's based on science, and it's something that we have to teach through direct and explicit instruction. So we took a look at programs that allowed us to have that. The second way that we looked at programs to pilot was making sure that they were a knowledge-based curriculum, which means we were going to be able to bring in science and social studies and robust vocabulary, kindergarten through 4th and 5th grade. When we did that, we came up with 3 different programs that we piloted this year. We piloted UFly, which is a piece that covers the phonics, kind of a learning how to read piece. And then we piloted 2 reading programs. We piloted Bookworms and we piloted Amplify CKLA. Both of those met the requirements for the knowledge base and the science of reading. Based on the data, both feedback from the teachers, the data that we saw in our Acadians results in each of the classrooms, we were able to determine that the Amplify CKLA was going to be a better choice for our teachers. One of the reasons that we did decide to go with this, and it goes with some of the questions you asked, is that it has a very robust professional learning piece that goes along with that. We know that our teachers already have quite a bit on their plates, and so we want them to be able to have everything they need to very quickly move into providing instruction in classrooms. I'm happy with whatever the board decides. I do want to note, though, that the longer that we wait to be able to make a purchase is the longer that it takes for materials to get to our teachers. Our teachers were adamant that we wanted to make sure that any curricular change that we made was made in a timely manner so that our teachers would have time to receive the materials before the beginning of the school year. The longer that we wait to push it back means that those materials will not be in hand for teachers to use by the end of the school year, which means that all of the learning that they would be doing is in those first few days at the beginning of our school year next year, as well as the unboxing of materials and getting things in place. So again, this is a board decision when it comes to a purchase, but I do want to be very, very clear that this was a robust process in going through this. We looked at a number of different programs prior to this. We did a reading tiered fidelity inventory, and one of our challenges that was noted by the contractors from the IU was that we had a challenge with our core literacy piece. The state of Pennsylvania also provided additional funding for us to be able to pilot additional classrooms this spring, because this is a program that meets the needs for structured literacy in the state.
Okay, thank you.
And it's a 5-year, so it would not be something that goes away after 1 year. So it is a 5-year contract. It is something we would not want to move out of, because it's an investment, but it's an investment that's based on us looking at data where approximately 50% of our students leaving some of our grade spans are not reading on grade level.
So, do you know what the time period is from when the books are ordered?
So they will give me a 6 to 8 period. A 6 to 8 week shipping period is what they like to say. Our rep has been very good at getting it around 4 weeks. I can't guarantee that though. So we've been very lucky. We have had excellent representatives who've been very thoughtful for us. Once the purchase is approved and we can go through the PO process here in the district, which I'm not sure how quickly that would be able to move through, she would be able to start giving us access to some of the online materials. I do know that teachers would like to be able to start having things in their hands. They've already been asking me. We've been able to start providing them the U-Fly manuals because we were able to purchase them as a supplemental resource in the past. But in regards to teachers, I know they don't like feeling like they're rushed at the beginning of the school year with getting things organized. So this is a board decision, but I would encourage you not to push it off.
I mean, just to be, totally honest and transparent, I figured if we would table it, it'd be no more than next month.
So that would take it that they would most likely not get it before the end of the school year.
I would think since our teachers did the pilot program and did all the research, we should do what they say.
There is no perfect program. I'm going to be honest with you. There is no perfect program. The teachers have been, I think, Mr. Caputo was sharing out all of the enrichment type activities we've done this year. So the planetarium came in place because it was aligned to a CKLA unit. Our visits to the VOTEC came about because they were aligned to the CKLA unit. The farming units that we're doing are aligned to CKLA units. Our teachers have been so excited to lean into something that offers them the opportunity to explore science and social studies in their ELA programming. I am cognizant of us having to do some additional personalization next school year, as anybody would. I think that's why you hire individuals, to make sure that they're able to have that personalization happen, and that we're keeping data to make sure it's working or not. But it is up to the board what they would decide to do.
I think I understand your point with the new superintendent. They're not going to be in the building probably before the end of the year to weigh in on things anyway, and I think that is why we're paying a full-time K-12 curriculum person to try to make these decisions based on good facts. So I think we move forward with
right or wrong person, make it right for the satisfaction. Everyone's on board. Great. Good feedback.
It has been a thorough process. The big thing is the opportunity to pilot, to allow the teachers to work with materials and to give input, and they've done that. So, I mean, the teachers are the key here, and of course, administration. And but if it's a program that the teachers like and support, and they feel will be helpful, that's the key. So, again, I know this process has been going on year long, and even the review material has been available for many months now as well here in this room. So I think you can be confident that the program is going to be one, and I think whoever you bring on as superintendent, we got a little feedback. This was one of the candidates the other night that he was supportive of. That was one of the questions, and we had a little discussion.
That's all we make sure that whichever one it is.
But I think no matter who you pick, that they'll be satisfied with this, and they're going to make it work, because that's going to be they're inheriting, they're coming in this program, and this is a 5-year program, so it's going to be incumbent on them to make it work.
That's all make sure we set everyone for success, including the superintendent, administration, teachers, kids. That's the increase I thought about.
That's a great point, but I think you can take comfort in the fact that it's been a thorough process. What you want is stakeholder input, and you've gotten that with this review. If it was just Liz making decisions in isolation, but it hasn't been. It's everybody's been involved in the process.
Good to move ahead? Academic affairs item 1, approved to purchase the curriculum. Motion. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. One budget and finance item, and that is to approve the 23-24 single audit report. Motion to approve. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Next, we have the approval of the Eagle Scout project. Do you have any questions on that? The floor is yours.
So, my name is Clay Watt. I'm proposing a storage shed for the Berwick sports at the track, next to the track shed. The board's approval is the first step, and the second step would be the approval for the scout.
So, Clay, you worked with Mr. Driscoll, right?
Yeah.
At least he's
We
reviewed
emailed,
it.
we did some emailing, this is my first time meeting him out in the lobby.
I don't think this is okay. And so again, you've done a lot of research, and we do appreciate all the planning that you put into this.
Yep, thank you very much. Motion to approve this project. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We have 2 transportation items, those are the drivers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Rachel, I have to abstain from
Transportation item number 3 is to approve the contract with Gallagher Student Transportation. Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mrs. Capurlo? Mr. Lanning?
Yes.
Mrs. Moyer? Yes. Mrs. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Yu?
Yes. Transportation item 4 is approve the agreement with Ralph Winstein Bus Company. Motion to approve. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Post?
Yes.
Mrs. Moyer?
Yes.
Mr. Lanning?
Yes.
Mrs. Capurlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Yu?
Yes. We have 16 personnel items, which we will approve with one motion. Anybody have any questions or discussion on any of these?
Question on P14, I just want to confirm that Mrs. Kusky retires and that position is terminated at the close of business September 10th, 2025.
Are you able to confirm that for us, Mr. Poole?
The contract indicates that that is the last day of her employment with the district. So beyond that, there's no guarantee that the board, or there's no requirement that the board continue that position, or if they do, even with business customers. So as of that date, that ends.
But she's officially retired, I think, that's what the motion was when we approved that.
That's what she's indicated.
I just want to make sure that the contract on the motion.
Anybody else have any questions on any of these items? Motion to approve personnel items 1 through 16.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Go to P13.
All right. Personnel item 17, approval of Steve Lutz to be the Director of Technology beginning July 1st. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Lanning?
Yes.
Mrs. Moyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Capurlo?
Yes.
Mrs. Post?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
And Mr. Yu?
Yes.
Congratulations, Steve.
Does anyone have any old business for discussion? For new business, we have recommendation for expulsion. Motion to amend. Anybody have any discussion on that? So we need to add that to the agenda. Can we get a motion to amend the agenda? What's that? All in favor of amending the agenda? Opposed? All right. Motion to add the expulsion of student ID number 52085 effective April 7th through June 30th. Motion to add that to the agenda. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. Now we need a motion to approve the expulsion of student ID number 52085 effective April 7th through June 30th.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. That brings us to our last round of public comment.
Danielle Fishball, Salem Township.
1 second, please.
One second, please.
Oh, sorry.
discuss it, we'll hand it off to you.
All right. I've been asked by First Keystone Community Bank to seek approval from the board to, they'd like to put on a fireworks display on July 4th this year at the parking lot in Prison Field. The Boulevard Association is putting on a fireworks display on July 5th. The bank thinks that since July 4th is actually our country's birthday, that the fireworks should be on July 4th. So they are willing to, and they're proposing to put on a display, totally sponsored by First Keystone, with the approval and, at the location, same places where fireworks always occur. The bank would be responsible for providing insurance to the district, getting the fire prevention people from the fire companies, which they've already talked to, as well as security. The bank would also need approval from the borough, which they'll be seeking that as well. But they have a vendor that does this, but that vendor has one group available on that date. Obviously, you can have July 4th is the normal date to have fireworks, so that's a very busy day, and you can only have so many people at different locations. This just came up, so I texted it to Jared during the meeting, and it's not something that maybe we can approve tonight because it's not on the agenda, but the urgency for the bank is that they want to make sure they have a vendor under contract for that date. So if it's approved, there will actually be 2 fireworks. So one on the 4th, sponsored by the bank, and one on the 5th, sponsored by the Boulevard Association. I don't know why the Boulevard is doing it on the 5th rather than the 4th, but that's their decision.
We've had discussions at meetings in the past, if I remember, that all of a sudden, it used to be on the 4th traditionally for years, and just recently it became always Saturday before or after.
I know that the bank, one person who inquired with the Boulevard, was told that Bloomsburg has fireworks on the 4th, and they didn't want to conflict with those. Well, I think that's where most places have their fireworks, so it could happen, I guess, on August 10th also, not conflict with anybody. Also, next year is the 275th anniversary of our country, and they don't want to use this necessarily as a warm-up, but they want to have a much bigger display for next year on July 4th. So they'll be requesting that date as well next year.
I would think our facility use policy would cover this, wouldn't it? Have you submitted that process?
There is a form that has to be filled out. I think it's a great idea. The form.
It's the same form that the Boulevard Committee fills out, the same building usually.
Okay, so the bank can send a representative.
What's that? And so then it'll go through its process, then Ross will, look at the insurance, liability insurance, and it'll go through all its parties, and it ends up at Mr. Clue.
So I'm not sure about that.
All right, let's try. Yeah, it is. Let's try public comment again.
Sure.
Now you're back up.
Okay. Danielle Fishbowl, Salem Township, as you all know me. Okay. Salem Elementary has a better way of guiding traffic to drop off kids by having 2 signs stating to pull up each car so they have don't have extra spaces in between the vehicles, and there is always somebody guiding traffic. Excuse me. At West Berwick Elementary, it is big hassle, and there is no sign stating for the cars to leave, no big spaces in between each other at the drop-off, which causes a big traffic backup in between the main roads where the 4 stop signs are, which is Sycamore and Washington Street. Due to this issue, it's hard for the parents to get into the parking lot, to be able to drop off their kids and to walk up their kids, and it is also hard for them to be able to even go around the loop and to be able to take their kids up to the loop. I have contacted the school security about this issue, no luck. I have also contacted the Berwick Borough, no luck. Nobody wants to try to guide traffic. Why is this? No luck. Okay. Basically, the police do not have enough police these days in the Berwick Borough. They're outnumbered. The security, I don't know their reason. We are so thankful that Chief McNeil has a lot of police officers these days, and he is able to guide traffic around where the middle school is and where the high school is, and he is able to guide our kids back and forth, you know, so they don't get ran over, okay? But the main thing is West Berwick has one crossing guard only that is able to try to stop people from going past and stop them from, the kids from getting hurt, to be able to guide the kids to go back and forth, to be able to go up safely to the school. And it is causing so much bad, safe problems, you know, basically for our children, because it is causing bad problems all the way past Washington Street. It causes a major backup all the way past Washington Street and all the way past Sycamore Street as well. Why can't we get our security guy who is there, who walks around and just basically walks the 2Cs, goes ahead, gets, you know, everything he wants, and then basically doesn't do anything, basically walks around and doesn't have any luck to be able to guide our traffic. When Mr. Lanning was there, he was the other security guy. He actually went ahead and guided the traffic, and he helped. Why can't the other security guy do the same? It would really help. I'm not trying to put down the security guy that's there now. He is a very nice person. Please understand that. We just need more help to cause that backup to stop. That is the main thing. Thank you.
Anyone else? Summary of executive session, we have 3 personnel items, 3 contracts, 1 discipline item, and 1 security item. Our next meeting will be in this room on May 12th at 6 p.m. Motion to adjourn. Favor?